Welcome to BAM, Badass Moms with Lori and Jenny. We are moms on a mission to share women's stories about life, fitness, aging, relationships, travel, and much more. Hello, friends, and thanks for listening. I just wanted to take a second to give you a quick reminder about subscribing to the show. If you have not already, just take a moment and do so. This will make sure that you never miss a daily bite or an upcoming episode. And in addition to that, if you have a few extra moments and like to drop us a review, we'd really appreciate it. And there's also a sponsor of the show located at the bottom of all of our episodes. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being badass. Hello, friends, and thanks for joining us on another episode of the BAM, Badass Moms with Lori and Jenny. In today's episode, we are just so excited that Elizabeth is joining us. If you have not seen Elizabeth on Instagram and followed her by the end of this episode, I guarantee you will. She's amazing. We're going to talk about her journey of being a successful dancer, to owning a thriving dance studio in the Denver area, all while being a mom, and also becoming an Instagram marketing mentor. Just some fantastic conversations today. Elizabeth, we're so excited to have you on the show. Thanks for taking the time, and let's dive in.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I have to just give a little bit of background. So I've been dying to get Elizabeth on the show. She is not only my neighbor, I think that's initially how we met, but she's also a dancer, a dance coach, has her own business on social media you do social media coaching, right? And then do you also consider yourself an influencer?
I mean, that's what people call me, but it's still weird.
Yeah. No, I love it. So I want to talk about all the things, but yeah.
And she's a mom, and she's a badass mom.
Yes, and she's a mom. So yeah, so figuring out how you do it all. We want to talk about all the things.
Why don't you tell us what you're currently up to and what led you there, and we'll kind of take different paths along the way.
That sounds awesome. Well, I am a busy mother of two kiddos. I have a 7 and 10-year-old. And I'm also the proud CEO and founder of a company called Wedding Dance Coach, which is a brick and mortar dance studio in Denver. We also launched a virtual studio a couple years ago, and we now coach couples all over the world, in Australia and the UK. So I have a small team of employees that run that company, and I get to kind of be in the CEO visionary seat for that business, which is really, really fun. And yeah, we do first dance lessons and custom choreography and all of that to help nervous non-dancers rock their first dance with confidence, because no one wants to see you sway, for 3 minutes and just fall asleep. So I've had that company now for 13 years, which is crazy to say.
Kudos. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
And a business owner.
Thank you so much.
Was the virtual pivot, was that during COVID or was it before?
So the virtual pivot actually came from our social media success.
It did. Okay.
Absolutely. And that's part of why, so the kind of perfectly transitions me into telling you that I now am a Instagram marketing mentor and coach, helping other entrepreneurs and small business owners really leverage Instagram in their organic marketing strategy, meaning like no paid ads, just, your blood, sweat, and tears showing up. And it's just such an incredible resource for all of us that we all have access to. And it's such a powerful way to market your business. So because of the massive success I had in doing that for Wedding Dance Coach, my company has over 120,000 followers on TikTok and Instagram. And what that resulted in was over 4,000 emails on our list, because as we know, with these platforms, you don't own your followers. You can have all these followers and it can mean nothing. Yeah. So it's really important that you have kind of a customer journey and strategy of how you're going to get the information of your most loyal fans so you can continue to nurture your relationship with them off of Instagram, right? So we got over 4,000 emails. And then that year, it resulted in an 84% increase in sales.
Wow.
So crazy. So that's why I'm so passionate about helping other small business owners and entrepreneurs really understand the platform and how to use it to their advantage. So that's what I'm focusing on right now.
Well, and what I love is you really talk about the word strategy, right? And as an entrepreneur, I myself was an entrepreneur for many years, and you do tend to, just try things, right? You throw shit at the wall and hope it sticks. Well, it doesn't always stick, right? And you said it's more, about strategy that's really led you to your success, where in your previous life, as you were learning, it was more, I believe, if it was like me, it was reactive instead of proactive. Like, I was always just hoping for people to follow something, or hoping I would get those leads. But now it's like there's an actual process that's working, and you've proven it, right? So that's pretty exciting.
Yes, thank you. I love how you said that, and I want to shine a light for anyone who's listening to know that there's different stages of entrepreneurship and business ownership, and it's extremely normal and should happen in those first couple of years of testing, experimenting, throwing the spaghetti at the wall, because you're not going to come out of the gate and know your perfect business model and your perfect offers, and it just doesn't work that way, right? You have to get your feet in the mud, get dirty, and learn as you go. But yes, that's what is so exciting about the business I'm doing now and helping other entrepreneurs, is that, yes, I've figured out, because I've been in the mud for so long and I've thrown so much spaghetti at the wall. And what's really fun is that this process that I take my clients through, I'm now doing it. I've done it now multiple times. So as you said, it's like a repeatable process that I know will bring results, because I've done it in multiple businesses on multiple platforms and with my clients, and I'm seeing results. So it's that's where you're yes, strategy. Yeah. I don't have to throw the spaghetti at the wall anymore.
What types of clients? So I think you know this. Well, I know Lori knows this, and Elizabeth, I'm pretty sure you know this too. But I launched an HR business with a partner in January, and we're very much in the throwing spaghetti at the wall phase, right? We have clients, which so grateful for. But you're at the point where it's okay, how do we grow our business, right? How do we grow it? And there's only two of us, so how do we grow it in a way that we can obviously give our clients the best possible support, but how do we get our name out there, all that kind of stuff. So we started out really strong on Instagram, and she loves doing Instagram and stuff like that. And then we've leaned into LinkedIn a little bit more, because we're trying to figure out where our client base is. So what kind of clients do you work with, and how do you advise people, what platform to use?
Yeah, great question. So it's all customized, right? It's totally customized to the client and their business and their business model. You are so smart to ask that question of where is our ideal client prospect, right? Where are they spending the most time? Part of why I like Instagram so much is there's over 1 billion users of every demographic, all, everywhere.
Yeah.
So, to me, it feels like your audience is for sure on there. The question is more, where do you feel most comfortable? Where do you want to show up? Where do you want to invest your time? What I do recommend is focusing on one platform and becoming masterful.
Okay.
So I personally am not masterful at LinkedIn. You would not hire me to coach you on how to show up on LinkedIn. I do plan on becoming masterful. I'm going to start to repurpose my content and see what flies there and what doesn't. And I'll be in that experimentation phase. But what I personally have mastered is Instagram, and then really essentially repurposing my content onto TikTok. I don't even play the full on TikTok game. I just am the lazy one who's just I created it here. I'm going to post it over there. And I know some of the tips over there, so I can kind of shift some things so it can work. Yeah. But I do recommend focusing on one platform at a time, because they all are so different. And I know a lot of people, and I should kind of go back and say, that doesn't mean that if you wrote this awesome piece of copy for LinkedIn, you should absolutely just copy and paste it and put it on your Facebook page and slap on a photo, right?
Yeah, right.
So you can absolutely repurpose. Yeah.
Yeah, like what you said about repurposing stuff on TikTok. I mean, I think that that's the beauty of it, is that you can use the same content on the different platforms and reach different audiences.
So what was the learning curve for TikTok? So, I'm 43 years old, and I grew up as, I think we're all kind of in the same age range, like Facebook, Instagram, and then there's this TikTok, and there's this other stuff, right? And so I am not on TikTok, and I'm kind of scared and nervous, like as I was actually watching one of your videos, Elizabeth, about how you originally had thought TikTok was for the younger kids, right? Like you're like, TikTok, it's for like the 10 and 12-year-olds. Why would I be on TikTok? But it sounds like that actually is something we should be on, right?
So TikTok is funny. Yeah. I mean, I'm 43 too. So let's just call it out there. Yeah. And it's funny. I think like our age demographic, like any kind of social media platform, it's just like some of us have this like really strong resistance to it. And I feel like that's part of my job is like almost like mentoring people into like, you're sitting on a gold mine. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember what we used to have to do? There was the yellow pages and you would have to pay to like print this little tiny piece of copy that was it. And then it would like, you'd have to wait for it to go to the publisher, and then you'd have to wait for it to be dropped on someone's front porch. And then you would have to say a prayer that they would look up a plumber, and then they would see 100 different plumbers, and it would be like, right. And so I'm like, hello, like whenever people are like hesitant to do any social media, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it is like the yellow pages on crack. Like you can just reach people. It's all free. It's free. I say air quotes because it's time, energy, it's not free, but you know what I mean? And so, but okay. So going back into TikTok, yes. When I was just like, heck no, I'm not going on that. Like, it's just like teenager. Like I would see my neighbors like they're like doing dances in their driveway. I'm like, no, I am a professional woman. I am not going on TikTok. But TikTok is similar to Instagram in that, there actually is a very wide variety of demographic over there. It does skew toward the younger generation for sure. But you could go on there and find doctors and chiropractors and acupuncturists and therapists and like professional people. And it's just, it is similar to Instagram. It's a little, it is a different vibe over there. And what I always tell people is, okay, when you are first starting your TikTok, you're going to be horrified because the algorithm doesn't know like you're a grown ass woman with a business, and like it's going to show you stuff and you're going to be horrified. Like those first few days I was like, what is this? And be really careful. Like don't watch anything that you don't want to watch, because the algorithm will be like, she likes this like bikini model selling a car, or something like that. But essentially what you do is like, just like you would research, like, so Jenny, for you, if I was in your boat, I would open up an account for my business. I would, put the type, obviously like you want to claim your handles, right? Because you want to make sure that you have that real estate on the platform. So even if you're, I would recommend only opening an account when you're ready to start using it. Mm-hmm. But you want to see if your handle is available. But if I was Jenny, what I would do is I would use the search function and I would type in like HR, and I would like go down the HR rabbit hole, and I would like consume, like set a timer, but literally just see, like, just be like, okay, how are HR companies using this? How, and then you'll start to get all these ideas of like, oh, well, we could do that, but here's why we're different. And here's how we could put a spin on it. And then the algorithm will start to understand, okay, Jenny's like really into HR. Like, so I always tell people like, be really careful of what you consume, because this happened to me on Instagram where I watched this video of like this woman talking about like her husband that like died, and I was like crying, and I was like, oh my God. And then for like weeks, every time I went on Instagram, it showed me videos of like women who lost their husbands. And I was like, no.
Yeah, Instagram does that. Like you do. Sometimes you get sucked in one video, and the next thing you're like,
that now. Like,
why am
last
I
night we pulled
all of this?
Pulled up on Netflix, and all these shows popped up, you guys. It was like Dateline, 2020, murdered on their honeymoon, like all these like murder. I'm like, what is happening right? Like I watched one show.
My
husband's like afraid.
When people are like, I don't like my Facebook page, it doesn't like, how does that help my business? I'm like, you need to unfollow, you need to like be more strategic. Like that's what I mean about strategy, you guys. It's like, if you want to like make a decision that you're going to leverage TikTok for your business, you're not going to consume it for personal reasons, right?
Yeah. Create a different account for that, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my daughter uses TikTok. I think this, what you're saying about the search function, and I haven't been able to figure out the search function as much in Instagram, but the few times I've been in TikTok, it's been pretty easy to find stuff that I'm looking for, like to your point, following HR and stuff like that. But my daughter is following different colleges. And so she's like visiting the colleges before she's visiting the colleges. It's really cool.
That's interesting.
So I'm like using it for all of these things that I never thought of before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We got to get on board.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be here regardless. So we may as well figure it out, right?
Yeah,
totally. So Elizabeth, let's start off like, how did you get into dancing? How did you own a dance studio? What led you there?
Yeah, I am one of those rare breeds that I knew what I wanted to do with my life when I was 11 years old. Like if you had interviewed me back then, I'd be like, I am going to own a dance studio and I'm going to be a dancer. And I just absolutely fell in love with dance as a child. For me, it was always just, I felt like it was emotional expression. It was a way for me to express like what I was feeling inside externally in a safer way because I didn't feel as comfortable really verbalizing my feelings. So I would just express and emote through my body. And I've always been wired to be more of a high achiever. And so I got into the competitive dance world at a very young age and would go to dance for like 4 or 5 hours every day after school and do competitions on the weekends. And it's interesting as an adult, I'm looking back and I'm like, why was that little girl like hustling so hard at such a young age? Like I kind of see that differently now where it's not as much, I don't know. I almost like challenge that, like why was I pushing myself that hard? But I know part of it was just, I had this like deep seated passion for dance and it just brought me so much joy. So I really fell in love with it from a young age. And then I ended up getting a dance scholarship to a college in New York City called Marymount Manhattan College. And I went and got my Bachelor of Arts in dance because I knew I still wanted to go to college. And then I danced professionally for a little while. I danced on a cruise ship for Holland America.
So that was fun. Gosh.
Yes. I could tell you all about cruise ship life, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah. So I and then eventually, transitioned from living in New York City to living in Chicago, started a dance company out there, was teaching dance and really kind of, the path of the dancer is like, you're a performer and then you transition eventually into like teaching and choreography. And I always knew that I loved working with adults. Like I loved helping adults to feel more comfortable in their bodies and feel more confident on the dance floor. And I loved doing private lessons. I absolutely loved just working with adults. And so when I moved to Colorado to be with my now husband, we were engaged and we were planning our wedding. That's when I had that like aha moment because I was like, oh my God, there's 150 people flying in from all over the country for this wedding. Yeah. And this dance feels really important to me. And I was terrified. Like I was nervous and I'm like, okay, I was a professional dancer. Like how do people who have 2 left feet and like social anxiety do this? Like this would be horrible.
A lot of alcohol.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of alcohol for sure. So that's when really the idea for a wedding dance coach was born because I always knew I wanted to leverage private lessons and I wanted to work with adults, but I wasn't really sure how. And then, it kind of, it grew from there. And like many of you, it's like when you first start your business, you're a one-woman show. Like you're wearing all the hats, you're working 80 hours a week, you're teaching all the lessons, you're doing all the marketing. You're like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, okay, let's figure this out. And then when I got pregnant with my first kiddo, that's when I hired my first instructor and I had to start to like let go of the clients. I had to totally rebrand because I originally was elizabethmarberry.com, which actually is funny. Now that is my website for my marketing brand. But, the problem became, then the couples say, we want to dance with Elizabeth. And so I had to rebrand into wedding dance coach. So that way it was no longer the clients asking to work with me, but a dance coach. And then from there, I've just like grown my team, and we just continue to grow year over year.
That's an important note for scaling your business, though. I think that is like anybody who wants to grow their business, if it identifies with you personally, you're going to be limited, right?
Yes.
So letting that go. I have to say really quick too. So if you watch Elizabeth's social media, she is so much fun. Like you dance on your social media, obviously.
In her kitchen, which I love.
I know.
Kitchen, which is just
and she's
awesome.
Like, sometimes it's like first thing in the morning, sometimes you're done up, but like it doesn't matter. I love it so much. But one of the things, and I want you to talk about this, you went viral dancing pregnant, right?
Oh, yeah. That was actually on YouTube where that went viral.
So, yeah, tell us about that.
Oh, my God. I totally forgot about this. This was so long ago. That was my first viral video. So I made this video where I was like pretty much 9 months pregnant, maybe 8 months. And we were up in Beaver Creek. So like super high elevation. You already can't really breathe well when you're pregnant. And I choreographed this whole dance, and I did it like full out. Like, I mean, I watch it now and I'm like, oh God. But like, I was just hitting it hard. And because really, honestly, the reason why I made that video is I was like, I just felt I did not want to lose myself in pregnancy and motherhood. And I wanted to prove that pregnant women could do whatever the heck we wanted to do. Like I was so sick of like pussyfooting around, like I wanted to be like bold and be like, pregnant women's bodies can do stuff too. Like we're not like dead, dead to the world. So I did this video, and it totally went viral. And it got picked up in like all these different countries on like their news stations.
So how did it so you hear viral, right? Like, how does that happen? So did you just post it? Because this was years ago, before you had a strategy, I'm guessing.
So long.
So did you just post it on Instagram? Was that it? And then just said it and left it, or what?
So this,
or you said YouTube, sorry.
Before I was like doing Instagram.
Okay.
This was way before I was like social media savvy in any way. Gosh, how did I do it? I think I just got lucky. I posted it and I said, pregnant woman dancing at 9,000 feet. So I had that clickbait, right? Like that's key. And then I want to say I might have, God, this was so long ago. I don't even remember. I think I might have like emailed it to certain people to kind of like maybe some PR people.
Because you knew it was good, right? Like after you did it, you were like, this is actually fucking good.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny now that I like see. I haven't thought about this in so long. I'm like not prepared to answer these questions.
Sorry.
That like it's not even like I was hoping to go viral. I think it just felt important to me. Like just like I almost wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And dancing is my art, and I wanted to continue to express the art and like make an empowering statement for women. But I don't think I ever thought it would go viral. And okay, so virality, because now that like I've had a lot of videos that have gone viral on Instagram and TikTok. I actually just had one last week that I posted that's totally like popping off. It has over 200,000 views and thousands of comments, and it's crazy. And there's like a really beautiful side of something going viral, and then there's this like dark side too. And when I posted that pregnancy video, I saw the dark side because there was a lot of horrible comments about this baby's going to be like needs to be aborted. I mean, like horrible things.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So it's interesting, when you play the game of social media, it's vulnerable, right? You have to be, but here's the thing. What I always tell people is that you show up for the people that you're here to serve, and you're not going to let the haters stop you from doing that. Like you have to show up and serve those people, the people that you can help, the people whose lives you can change with your product or your service, and make their lives easier, or provide a solution to their problems. Like, the haters cannot stop you from doing that unless you let them, right? So you have to really come from that place of service and knowing that the right people are going to see your stuff as well, and honestly, when you have the haters, it's actually a really good sign. It means that your content is reaching a lot of people, because you're really not going to get haters until you're starting to reach a lot of people.
So you talk about one of the other things I really like that you speak about, I think a lot, is being your authentic self. And I love this because I feel like in a world of social media, in a world of, just a lot of fake things are out there. It's really about being who you are and showing people who you are. So if you want to talk a little bit about how you were able to, and it sounds like this video really kicked that off, like being who you really are and not putting on a fake facade for what people want to see or what people want to hear. You're like, this is who I am. I'm dancing in my kitchen, and that's me, right?
Yeah, it's interesting how. So I want to point out something that's interesting is that I had before I had like a kitchen video go viral, I was taking a lot of videos in my bathroom where the lighting wasn't great, and then I just randomly one day took a video in my kitchen, and that one popped off, and then I realized, okay, I need to film more in my kitchen. So just that's a little note as a creator to play with your environments. But I think it's interesting how you're speaking to me about it, because clearly, like, you seeing me dance with no makeup on and a cup of coffee in my kitchen, that feels very approachable to you, right? Yeah. Like, that feels like relatable. So I think, so when we talk about being authentic, we are so starved for connection. Like, we are so starved for that sense of belonging, knowing that we're not alone in our suffering or our pain or our mood that day or whatever it is. And I think a lot of us go to social media when we feel that void. And so to me, how I like my platforms, I always try to keep it real. And I try to share like the good, bad, and the ugly. Sometimes I've had some feedback from some of my mentors of like, it's almost like share more, Elizabeth, share more, because I don't ever want people to think that I just have this like perfect life and everything's like always put together. And so I guess for me, sometimes it's how I show up. Like, I won't like clean my kitchen before I take a video. It's just there's like clutter in the background, because that's like how my house actually is, or like I'll do it without makeup on. And I do, full disclosure, there are like these filters on Instagram that essentially, like, it's almost like they put on this like base of foundation on your face. A lot of times I'll use those because I'm just like, but I just won't have any makeup on. I'll just be like raw. Because that's
I need that trick. I need to know that trick.
I was gonna say, I can share that filter with you.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I don't ever want me not having makeup on to stop me from creating content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I also like, I always check myself with like people who know me in real life. I'm like, do I still look like that? Like, I don't want to, I don't want it to be like where you meet me in person and you're like, that, wow, no, does not look like that. So I think being authentic is, you're going to do better when the more authentic you are, because, the whole like overly curated, over polished, like that is very out. Like, being authentic is in. And even if it wasn't in, I would want you to do it because to me, like business, it's like, there's no like separating me from my business. Like, I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be real and authentic, like whether I'm in a team meeting or I'm making an Instagram video, and there should be just like a cohesion between those spaces. But yeah, in the past, I've shared some really hard stuff on social media, like the loss of my father and things like that, because I just want people to know that, I want to inspire people. I want people to know that you can go through really hard things and and still create like a beautiful life.
Yeah.
And still show up, right? Like
Yeah.
go through those hard moments and still show up and be consistent. Like I know you've talked about too. So let's talk about, you're a mom. So let's talk about raising kiddos and how you've been able to juggle being an entrepreneur and, a social media guru, and then, raise two amazing humans.
Yeah. And I want to know too, like, how's your day structured? Like, how do you have it super structured, or is it like free flowing? Or tell us a little bit about that too, with your family life and your business.
Yeah, I love this question because I feel like I'm so much more confident in entrepreneurship and business ownership than I am in motherhood.
I'm the same.
Yeah, like being a mom has been one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's challenged me in ways that I never imagined I would be challenged. And of course, there's like the deepest connection and care. Like, I often think about like my brain and how I kind of check in with myself is like, what part of my brain is like with my kids today?
Yeah.
And what part of my brain is like in my work? Because it feels like my children take up so much of my brain space.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had to really learn about what's realistic as a mother, especially when you have young children. I think I really, those early years, I like really burned myself out because I had this super unrealistic standard for myself of like, I don't know, like in a magazine of like, oh, my kids are home and I'm also building my business and everything's great. And, so I'm the girlfriend that you can like talk to about like the reality of how hard it is. Like, I'm not the mom who's just like, it's just, everything is just so great. And like the days are so, like,
that's the mom that has a nanny full time right there, right? That's the mom that's
Right.
like, yeah, I see my kids for 2 hours a day.
I don't know. I just, it's been challenging. And it's also, I mean, your kids are your greatest teachers because they're your mirror, like they will mirror back to you all of your shit.
Oh yeah.
And so, it's been a journey. It's been a journey. I also, in the beginning, I suffered from postpartum depression with both of my children, which was pretty debilitating. That was really hard. And so I think one of the things that has been a game changer for me as a mother is seeking support and seeking like way more support than I think that I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
You know
and
what I
asking
mean?
for help when you're not comfortable asking. Like, as a high achieving woman, how hard was that for you?
Oh my God. And yeah, or I would just like, I would always like underestimate. I'd be like, well, I guess I could like, or I would justify everything. Like I would just say like, well, we shouldn't get a babysitter on the weekend because they've been in school all week and we haven't seen them. But then I'd be with them on the weekend and I'd feel so exhausted and burned out. And it was just like kind of that classic like mom guilt.
Yep.
So I feel like where I'm at now is I am no longer apologizing for wanting the massive life that I want to create for my business. And that is so beautiful for my children to see.
Yeah.
Like they'll come home and they'll tell like their friends that like their mom's a CEO.
And their kids are like, what's a CEO?
Right. And I mean, my youngest is like, follow my mom on Instagram. And I'm like we'll be at like Starbucks and she just tells the barista, follow her on Instagram. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, I'm either blessing these children or really screwing them up. But yeah, so I think I'm starting to let go of like the guilt, I guess.
Yeah.
And I also feel like from the other massive thing I've been learning in this last year is how can I keep my nervous system regulated when my kids are not okay? So I always felt this like codependency of like, if you're not okay, I'm not okay. That's really been a struggle for me. And
Mhm.
so I've done a lot of therapy this year, and I'm really working on, okay, my child's not okay right now. They're having a really hard time. How do I take care of my nervous system? How do I
Mhm.
regulate my body? And then by doing so, I'm modeling for them, right? How to work their way through their emotions, feel their emotions, notice where they are in their body, like all of those
Yeah.
things. So children have really my kids have taught me so much, and I'm grateful for them. And it hasn't been easy. It's just been a journey.
Now, do they use dance to express themselves? Like, do they do the same kind of thing, use their body?
My youngest definitely dances like a
Uh-huh.
lot, very expressive, sings all the time, and
Yeah.
just, very expressive. My older daughter, she is not as into dance. She's just like, "Ugh, no." So
Yeah.
she's kind of more like my sporty, like
Yeah.
tomboy, like I'm going to play basketball. And yeah, she's paving her own path. So not as musically oriented.
Yeah. So
So-
2 girls, and did you say 10 and 7?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So are they
Mhm.
close? Like, although different, kind of, things that they're interested in, do they still find a way to bond or just fight? Because that's kind of like the age range where.
They're either best friends or worst enemies.
Yeah.
There's like no in between, really.
Yeah.
But when they are playing well, it is like I have those moments where I'm like, everything is great. Like, you have
Yeah.
the perfect family, and then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, separate them, pull them apart. Someone's going to get kicked and punched. And yeah, my youngest has learned curse words. And so now those are dropping all the time. And I'm just like, whew, okay.
Well, we started a podcast, Badass Moms. So my son is always like, my mom has a podcast and it's Badass Moms. Mom, why'd you name it Badass?
It was like the first, before we even had our first episode, I told Lori, I go, we got to put explicit on there because I'm not going to like edit what I have to say. And I love the F word. So it's
Oh my God, I love cursing so much. It's so fun. It's so fun.
My kids, so I don't know, my next door neighbor, when my kids were super little, she used to say bad words all the time. She had 5 kids. And I was like, how do you keep the kids from saying it? She goes, I just tell the kids that these are words that you can say as an adult, not as a kid. And they didn't cuss. And so I did the same with mine. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do that too. And they might cuss like now, but they didn't when they were little, to my knowledge. And I have always been.
Till they walked out of the house, Jenny. And they were
Yeah. I know, they're like on the school bus. Yeah. I'll probably hear stories later, but
I wish I could relate to that story, but I can't because my youngest struggles with impulse control. So like, no, it's like there is a lot of things being said, and I'm just like, ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's just rein it in. Let's pull it in.
People that talk about their kids my kids get along so well. I'm always like, I don't understand at all. My brother and I did not get along. We get along great now, but we beat the shit out of each other. And my kids, like even now when my oldest comes home, they'll get along for a hot second and then you can hear the doors start to slam. So I can relate.
Wow. Yeah, same. My brother and I used to fight all the time as kids. And then what I remember very clearly is he was 5 years older than me. So it was around when I turned 11 and he was 16.
Yeah.
Then I was like, he's so cool and I like him. And
I like his friends and I want to hang out with them.
Yeah. So that was good. That was, So I have hope.
Yes.
So Elizabeth, you have a husband, I believe, correct? Is he been a good support system for you? And what has he done to kind of, help you really be able to take your path as an entrepreneur and support you?
I'm so blessed and privileged. I have a very happy marriage. His name is Greg, and we've been married now for 13 years, coming up on our 14th in April, which is crazy. And he's just such an avid supporter of me. I often felt before I met him that as a dancer, men wouldn't really take me seriously, like there's kind of that like, oh, how cute, you're a dancer and you're blonde. And I just always felt this like dismissive energy
Mhm.
from men a lot of times. And he just really appreciates me. He like fully sees me. He respects me. And our relationship is very like mutual. Like it's
Yeah.
a very like even energy. And yeah, like he has completely supported me in pursuing my entrepreneurial dream. I mean, definitely um just there was a time period where yeah, like I was contributing but not as much, and he has really given me that space to forge my own path, which I'm so grateful for. And I have a secret desire of eventually, soon I hope, retiring him, meaning
Yeah.
like he can just go do whatever he wants to do and his creative pursuits. That is kind of my dream, because I feel like he's given me a lot of space to do that for myself, and I'm very grateful.
Now, is he in like a corporate 9 to 5 type? We know it's not 9 to 5, but 7 to
Yeah,
8.
he's a director of sales. So yeah, working for a big company, an
Yeah.
employee.
Yeah.
Very different energy being in that world.
Yeah.
But it's cool though. I appreciate like his perspectives, because one of the things that I'm learning as CEO and like having employees and having a team, I just hired my first like salaried position at my company, which was like a really big deal for me because
Yeah.
I had employees, but they were hourly. And so to hire, a studio manager, a salaried position, and what I've learned is that being like, you have to learn how to be a leader. Like you have to learn how to be a CEO, because
Mhm.
most of us, when we think of like a boss, what do we think? We think, oh, they're assholes or they're greedy or they're, it's like we have all these stories. And so I really wanted to be like this embodied leader of like holding space for like, putting people in their strengths and
Yeah.
listening to them and like fostering communication and open, communication within my company, and creating a culture of transparency where I'm like giving them business updates and I'm telling them all the things I'm doing behind the scenes. So they're not just like, I'm coming in the studio all the time, I don't even see Elizabeth here. What does she even do?
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So, but that has not been intuitive for me at all.
Yeah.
Like, I'd like to think I'm a strong leader, but like, man, being a leader for a team and like being a CEO is like a totally different skill set. And a lot of times I'll talk to Greg about it because he's worked in so many different companies, and I'll see the patterns in his companies. And I'm like,
Mhm.
and I'm always amazed. I'm like, how do these corporations even like survive? Like there's so much like dysfunction within a lot of
I
these
don't think a
companies.
lot of them do. That's the
You're
problem,
hitting
right?
on
Or
it.
there's lots of turnover, which is,
Yeah.
I think a reason that I think all of us is kind of this, entrepreneurial spirit has avoided that, right?
Yeah, you're hitting on exactly why we wanted to go out and do our own thing in HR, because we see leaders that need help. They need guidance. It's not intuitive. There's not enough support and coaching, especially for first time leaders. So the fact that you even recognize like, this is work for me, and this is how I want to show up, I think that's huge. So you should be proud of that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I had a teacher that worked for me for over 8 years, and he was very loyal. And then it went down south fairly quick, and I had to let him go. And that was one of those like moments where I realized how many mistakes I had made along the
Mhm.
way of, gosh, if I had had that conversation sooner, if I had set a clearer boundary sooner, that wouldn't have happened. And really, like, I think it's important when you're CEO, founder of your company, like, you need to take responsibility. It's easy
Mhm.
to say, like, oh, well, they messed up, or they're not doing it right, or, I told them this once, they should know. It's like, no, they shouldn't. Like, you probably didn't communicate it well. You need to tell them it in 5 different ways. Maybe they're a visual person, maybe. And it's like, I'm really learning that. Like, I'm learning that usually when there's an issue in my company, which happens all the time, I always go back to the drawing board. I'm like, what could I have done better? Like, clearly I didn't communicate this in a way that landed for you. So like, let's, and just like taking ownership over that, that also feels like very empowering to me. One of my coaches says, like, if you solve a problem, like solve it once, solve it forever. So instead of like, if something comes up and just kind of being like, oh, that's annoying, I'm gonna like, what if you actually solved every problem like forever? Like, what would that look like? Right.
But I think and I experienced the same thing in my business too, and same kind of situation, had instructors. I think you when you're in the thick of it, like you said, you kind of turn your head a different way, or you're not seeing everything that happens, or sometimes you don't address the situation and you just think it'll get better. But you said, and I love where you are now versus where you were when you started. You now own your shit and you know how to talk to your team and how to solve the problems. And I think that is a lot of that is with experience. I love that you say that, because I think a lot of people, give encouragement to all those young entrepreneurs that it is tough, but you do figure it out.
And the self-reflection piece, that's one of the things I see in strong leaders. They all look at, what could I have done differently? How could I have handled this better? What can I learn from this? So I think that, you're young, 43 is young, and learning that at this point in your career is huge, and it'll take you really far.
So we just have a few more minutes left. So I definitely want to ask this question, because you have so many awesome things going on, but what are you most excited about? Like, what's on tap?
Oh my gosh. Well, so many things, but I'll narrow it down to a couple. So one thing I'm very excited about is I am working on a masterclass right now called Hot Prospects: From Follower to Paying Client in 5 Steps. And really systematizing like what we were talking about earlier of like, here's like, let me pull back the curtain and teach you how to do what I've done, essentially how to leverage Instagram. And so I'm working on that masterclass that's going down December 15th. So that I'm super excited about. I'm also very thrilled about my podcast. So I have a podcast called Strut It, and we are working on season 3 right now, which hopefully will be launched in January. And I'm niching down even more. So marketing 101, like the more niche you can be, the more focused you can be, the better. It'll make your life easier as a content creator, and you'll attract more people to your audience, because they'll know like what you're an expert in, what you're known for, right? And so my podcast has been on a journey, much like my entrepreneurial journey of like really finding my path. And anyway, season 3, I'm super excited about. It's going to be all about how to leverage Instagram in your organic marketing strategy. And I'm just going to go really deep and serve and hopefully help a lot of people to use that free platform to their advantage, so they can serve more of their soulmate clients and make more money. And, we all started our businesses to have more freedom, time freedom, money freedom, all of that. So I'm excited to serve people in that way. So look out for season 3 of Strut It coming soon.
Yeah, definitely. We'll post all the links and contact information, so you can make sure to follow Elizabeth on her journeys.
I do think we should post her video, the dancing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
The pregnant.
We're going to bring it back.
I don't know if you're going to be able to find it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even know what channel.
It from the internet. She's like, I'm done.
I don't know what channel I even put it on. It's like, you're making me realize like I should like find it and take it and like repost it on my Instagram and be
you
like,
should.
Yes.
You should.
Go viral again. I mean,
good.
It's a whole new like set of eyes, right? Like,
yeah.
That's awesome.
So
well, thank
funny.
you so much, Elizabeth. It was so wonderful talking to you and learning more about your journey, where you are now. And I am so excited to continue to follow you and take some of your classes and just learn more.
Thank you so much for having me. I love what you guys are doing here, talking to badass moms who are doing really incredible things. We are powerful. So I appreciate you guys holding this space for all of us. And thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening, friends. And until next time, keep being you and keep being badass.